In this video, I really want to talk a little bit about strategy when it comes to fishing, because I think that there's several different ways that you can go about it. And to me, the strategy side about breaking down a body of water is something that I really love. It's something that I always dig into. I always love to hear the different processes that, pro anglers, and not even pros, but just other anglers, how they go about doing something. And so in this video, I really want to talk specifically about when you locate some fish, what is the best thing to do? And I'm actually going to ask you guys what you have done and maybe what you have seen in the past, because look, I'm always wanting to learn as well. Now, before we kind of get into that, this video is brought to you by my apparel company, Finn Fishing. And right now for the month of December, so just about another week, I am running a big sale over on the website. So USA made sun shirts, bass hats, duck shorts are all 20% off. A few items like the new foam trucker are 30% off. And anyone who buy something in the month of December is also going to be put into a drawing to win one of 4 different prizes. I'm giving away 2 one-of-a-kind bass hats. They're the only colors I've ever made. I'm also giving away an ARC Tharp Series grinder rod, and I'm giving away an ARC Gravity 7 reel. This is by far the best bait caster that I've used. So I'm going to leave some links down below in the description. Shopping at Finn Fishing is truly the best way to help support this channel, and I greatly appreciate it. All right, I don't really have a structure in mind as to where this video is going to go, but I was just thinking the other day about just kind of some of my own personal experiences, whether that's in tournament fishing or just fun fishing. And it's something that I feel like I don't know or have the best answer, and I don't always know that there is a best answer. So I am going to ask you guys down below in the comments to kind of let me know what you think. So this may be a little bit more like just in depth when it comes to fishing. I'm not going to talk specifically about techniques, but there's just a big thing that I'm trying to kind of figure out as well. And so the big thing that I'm really trying to figure out and always trying to learn and try to, for me, I apply a lot of things to tournaments. So in my mind, I'm always saying, like, what is the best strategy in this particular scenario? And so let me go ahead and kind of spell it out for you guys. So there's been a lot of times in my life where I have found either like out there practicing, typically when I am fishing and I am practicing for a tournament, or I am just on the move trying to find fish, I like to fish fast. And I've always kind of modeled what I do out there on the water kind of off of some of the best anglers in the world. Guys like Kevin Van Dam, guys like Jacob Wheeler, guys like Brian Thrift, guys who move often. And the biggest thing that I've always kind of seen and realized is that, the guys who are the most efficient out there on the water tend to be the best. They can cover water. They see more things. I don't know how else to put it. They just see more. And when you see more, you can take in all that data and you can kind of put it together and give you the best strategy for whether that's a tournament or just a fishing day. So with that being said, when I'm out there and I'm trying to locate fish, there have been multiple times over my lifetime where I'll find a little section of fish. And this has happened a lot during tournaments in the past, where I found like a little, or like practice for an event, where I will find an area and I might catch like 2 fish off of a fast moving lure in that area. And maybe I get another bite. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, there's some fish here, but I don't know how good it is. And so I immediately go to duplication in my mind, where I'm trying to go and find something that is set up similar to whatever it is that I have just found. And with that being said, there have been times where I do find other things, and then I forget about maybe that initial area that kind of showed me either where to catch fish or not. And there's actually been several times in my life where, when I fished on the Bassmaster Opens, I would work with guys that I fished with or around. And I would say things like, man, there's some fish here. If you want to go there, like, I'm not planning to go there, because it may have been that area where I got 2 bites, but I didn't think it was great, but I wanted to duplicate it and found something else. And then there's been times where I've said that to someone, or I'd be like, hey man, there's some fish over here if you need one. And they go there and they wreck them in that little area. Even just this year, there's a lake that I fish a lot locally, but I fished it in a very different way, late summer, early fall. And I found some fish way up on this lake, and there was a guy fishing a tournament locally, and I wasn't fishing the tournament that was happening the next day. And I told him, I was like, hey, I caught a couple of fish here, and I had caught them on a spinnerbait. And he went there, and I didn't think, like, I thought maybe you could go there and get another bite or two, but he went there and like crushed them, like really caught them good. And I just remember thinking to myself that, like, I didn't in that moment realize the potential to that specific area. And the biggest thing that I've kind of come to conclusion with it is that a lot of times, personally, when I go through an area, I'm typically moving fast. I'm throwing a fast moving, typically horizontal lure, you know, chatterbaits, spinnerbaits, topwaters, jerkbaits, horizontally fast moving lure. And if you get a bite or two, I think that there's a lot of guys in the world of fishing that maybe don't struggle with this. And I think that there's a lot of guys that automatically are like, man, I should just turn around and go through this really slow. Me, I personally don't always do that. A lot of times I'm like, okay, this is how I caught them. I caught them on a fast lure, and I should go and try to duplicate this, because I've always had it in my mind, the more areas that I have where I know fish are, the better that I can do in a tournament or just in fishing in general. And I don't think that that's always the case. Now, what I have found is that there have been times where I have duplicated. For example, there was this bite I got on a number of years ago on Lake Oneida up in New York. It was a topwater bite. It was nothing out of the ordinary for Oneida. But I decided that I kind of figured out how the fish were set up. And I also saw, that when I got a bite on a topwater, it was a good one. And so I never really paid attention closely to the zones where I was getting bite. I was simply trying to catch one fish here, one fish there, and I just knew that if I could catch 5 fish from 5 different areas, that I would probably have a good bag. And I did that for an entire tournament, and I got like 18th out of 200 some guys in that tournament. Literally missed the top 10 in that tournament by ounces. And it worked in that situation. But there's also been times where, like, if I had just stayed in a particular area and really milked it, I know that I would have done really well in that area. And so my question is, like, I'm always wondering, how do I decipher that? Because sometimes you can see the potential of an area, and sometimes you misjudge the potential of an area. And so, like, to me, I feel like at times I'm fishing so frantically fast at times that I do misjudge the potential of an area. And so it's hard for me to slow down in that moment. A lot of times pick up a different bait and really dissect it with something else that could get me a lot of bites. And I think that this is a little bit of the, don't leave fish to find fish mentality. But I'm really just trying to figure out what is the best in that situation. Like, that's a personal question that I have for myself. And guess what? I think that it's probably situational. I think that there are some lakes in the world that are spot lakes. There's definitely some lakes that are pattern lakes. So you kind of have that theory. But even with that being said, in a tournament, which is, maybe this is more geared towards the tournament angler, if you go through an area and you catch 3 or 4 and they're decent fish, do you automatically yourself always turn back around and fish through that area, or do you move on to the next area because you've kind of caught the fish there, or at least you felt? So I don't know. I like I said, I don't really have a structure for this particular video, and maybe I should have done a live video on this where I could read questions. I don't know if that's something that you guys would be interested in. Actually, let me know down below in the comments, because I would just be interested to know if you guys would want to do a live of some sort, maybe a live on a certain night of the week. But anyways, that's always a question that I just always have for myself, because there's been so many, it always involves a tournament. So I know that this may not apply to a lot of you guys, but there's been a lot of tournaments where I'm just like, man, is it best for me to find as many areas that have some fish as I can? Or is it best to really just milk an area? And I think that this also goes a little bit into just different anglers and how they approach the body of water. Like this is what I said. This is it's just different strategies, and I love hearing strategy. Like if you look at the way that Greg Hackney fishes, you look at the way that Aaron Martins fish. Those are phenomenal anglers. Like they will milk areas. I've even seen John Cox do this exact same things where they will fish an area so slow, and I've done that as well. But I feel like at times that maybe I have a hard time recognizing it. And so, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm really trying to say with this video. I guess I just would love to hear some of your guys' input with that. Because, look, a lot of you guys are good anglers. You know, a lot of you might be tournament anglers that do really well on your body of water. I'm starting to think that it's almost always best, especially if you are in tournament, if you go to an area and you catch 2 or 3 fish and they're kind of the right caliber fish, to just put the brakes on and slow down and milk that area for everything that it's worth. And I think that because I have seen over just my tournament fishing a lot that there are times where you think that, oh man, I have this afternoon bite. And so you do something kind of, unique in the morning, but you catch a couple of good ones in a small area, and you are like, sometimes for me, I'm like, all right, this is gonna work perfect. I'm gonna go to my afternoon spot and catch them there. But then that afternoon spot doesn't play out. And so a lot of times I'm starting to feel more or less like it is, if you get a couple of bites in an area, I think that you should pick it apart. Absolutely pick it apart before moving on. Make sure you leave no stone unturned, especially if they are quality fish, which I guess sounds obvious when I say it, but I guess also when you're out there on the water and you're trying to duplicate and you're trying to move and you're trying to, maybe catch a 4-pounder here and a 3-pounder there and a 5-pounder here and whatever, it just doesn't always seem that easy. So guys, I guess I'm sorry that I don't have any real structure to this video. It may or maybe it's just a little bit of therapy for myself to just talk about it a little bit, because it's just something that I always think about it. Like I think about it all the time. I always think about my past tournament experiences and how they went well and how they could have gone better, because we obviously all have those big fails. And those are the ones where we really think, hard about things. And I will bring up real quick another side note, and I'm sorry, I'm really just rambling here, and you guys are probably like, all right, I'm out. There's probably not many of you listening by now. But anyways, I will say that some of the best tournaments that I've ever had in my life that are multiple day tournaments, which were primarily the Bassmaster Opens, I think of the 3 ones that I had the best finishes in, well, not necessarily. So I think of a Chickamauga tournament in Oneida where I got 10th, not the one that I was talking about earlier, and then a Lake Norman tournament. And they were all vastly different. One was like offshore largemouth, one was on the bank floating worm largemouth, and the other one was all smallmouth with drop shots. But those were 3 of my best tournaments: a 13th place, a 10th place, a 4th place in Bassmaster Open, so amongst 200 guys. And the one thing that I have found to be like a correlation in those 3 tournaments is each day of the tournament, I really caught my fish in different areas. And so some of that was like the one tournament I had marked mentally, where the one shallow tournament on Norman, I had marked mentally in my mind and on a GPS where areas set up where I could go throw my little floating worm, which is what I had done really well with. And the one day of the tournament, I crushed them in this one area. I went back there the next day and I was not catching them. But I was like, oh man, I wonder if that one area has them. I hadn't fished there at all. And I went there and I caught them. And so it was like I milked that area the one day and I milked a different area the next day, and I did really well in that tournament. I think about that Oneida tournament where this is a different Oneida tournament where the first day of this particular tournament, I caught fish really well in this one area down the lake. I went there the next day, I caught 17 pounds the first day, went there the next day, and I spent hours there, and I had a 10-pound limit, which was bad on Oneida. and I was running back to the ramp, and I went to fish this one little area really quick. Actually, what I was trying to do is let my live wells fill back up with water, and I caught like a 4-pounder and another 4-pounder, and I'm like, man, there's fish here. And so then the third day, I stopped fishing that one area. The third day I came back and I caught them really good right there in that spot. And then the Chickamauga tournament. The first day of the tournament, I caught them really well in one zone. The second day, I caught them really good in the grass. And it was just like, so guys, I'm sorry. I know that this video, there's probably nothing that you're getting out of it. It's more or less just me talking and thinking about strategies and what is the best strategy. Like, it's just something that I'm always curious about. So down below in the comments, if you are still listening to this, if this has intrigued you at all, I would love to know what some of the best tournaments that you have fished are and why. Like, what was special about that day? Did you just happen to catch a big bass that bumped you up? Or did you do something really specific that helped you win? I just love learning as well, guys. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Sorry that I rambled for a little bit. But anyways, I will see you guys tomorrow.